Welcome to MSP Voice, the weekly show for MSPs by MSPs. Brought to you by MSP 360, the #1 cross-platform cloud backup. Learn more at msp360.com. This is MSP Voice. Hello and welcome to MSP Voice. This is episode number 69. Today I am pleased to be joined by Andrew Lassise with Rush Tech Support out of Southern Florida. We had a great conversation. Andrew focuses a lot on residential, is working into some MSP space with business to business. He has an amazing story. Definitely stick around, listen. And I also include links to his podcast as well in the show notes. With that, let's get some housekeeping done. MSPvoice.com is your source for all things MSP Voice. We have a webinar coming up. Number 19 in our webinar series is actually coming up after the first of the year, so January 15th. I am pleased. I'll be joined by Jamie Warner, who's the CEO of Envirosoft, and they really focus on customer experience. It's a really cool application that they have that can really be helpful to MSPs out there to help your customers better get that information to you that they need and that you need in order to help them. So definitely check this out. It's on mspvoice.com. You can click there to register. Also, be sure to click on Be the Next Guest if you would like to be my next guest on MSP Voice. News of the week. So there's a lot of stuff in here about ransomware. And first off, I wanted to start off that actually MSP 360, our sponsor, is going to be doing a webinar with MSP coming up here next week. So Wednesday, December 18th at 2 p.m. Eastern. This should be very informative. MSP does some really great stuff in terms of ransomware detection, but then they also provide information on how to crack some of the ransomware. I'm going to be joined by Fabian, who is their CTO. He actually is the one who cracks a lot of this ransomware. He's got a really, really interesting story, so definitely check this one out. You don't want to miss it. Link is in the show notes. But in ransomware news, in case you haven't heard, Cirrus-1 is a data center that was hit by ransomware. So it happens. It doesn't just happen to an MSP and affecting their customers. It can also happen to a data center. So the Cirrus-1 data center was infected. ZDNet has a story on it. It's been updated a couple of different times, but and it affects some of the managed service providers. So 6 of the managed service provider customers located primarily in our New York data center have experienced availability issues due to a ransomware program encrypting certain devices on their network. So ransomware is out there everywhere, and especially if you're using one of these data centers, and if you get infected and they get infected, then it can spread. It shouldn't, in terms of things should be separated, but all this stuff can happen. So it's some really nasty stuff out there. Another ransomware is affecting dental offices again. So this is ransomware at a Colorado IT provider. So it's they specialize in dental practices, complete technology solutions, and it's the same ransomware that hit Cirrus-1. This is it's knocked a lot of dentists offline. It's been going on since November 25th. And so, again, just a lot of stuff happening. One thing that this article does mention is, in terms of dental practices. So Gary Solomon with Black Talon Security kind of talks about the fact that dental practices aren't always willing to pay the extra price for some of this protection. And some of you may have noticed that in your own experiences. So they go on to say that sometimes dental practices are the least protected. So that's not good news. And obviously, if the hackers know that, then they're going to make them a target. And then finally, not so much ransomware, but just a scam to be on the lookout for. This one came across my desk this weekend. 20 VPS providers to shut down on Monday, giving customers 2 days to save their data. So what it sounds like is an entity set up a whole bunch of different types of companies offering very cheap web hosting. And they've been doing this for a couple of months, and then they did Black Friday and all this other kind of stuff. And they got everybody to kind of sign up and commit, and then they shut down. So giving people just 2 days to get their websites and get everything else before everything is wiped clean. And the article, lists all of these different providers, the ones you should be looking out for. But in general, on hosting, if it sounds too good to be true, maybe it is, because this is apparently, it's not super common, but it does happen. And it's a practice that, unfortunately is called dead pooling, where, again, these companies, they set this up. They say they offer free web hosting. They may, like in this case, set up a bunch of different types of companies. They take all your money, then they say bye, and they walk away, and then you're left out of money and out of a host. So be careful about these things. I just wanted to bring this one to people's attention, because I know a lot of times your customers are asking you for hosting on their websites and those types of things. So be careful out there in terms of some of these super discount hosters that may just be running a scam. So with that, I will now turn it over to the interview again with Andrew Lassise with Rush Tech Support. Great interview, lots of fun. Have a great week, everybody. Hello and welcome to MSP Voice. Today I am pleased to be joined by Andrew Lassise and with Rush Tech Support. And Andrew, like me, you're a Floridian. You're on the other side of the state, a little bit further south, but enjoying the weather here in Florida, aren't we?
Yeah, it's wonderful. We had to pull out the parkas last weekend. It was down in the low 60s. Florida's been brutal recently.
Yes. All the women had their Uggs on. So tell us a little bit about yourself and about Rush Tech Support and what it is that you do.
Yeah, so my background, I was originally supposed to be in finance and got a degree in financial planning.
Okay.
And then I graduated in 2009 during one of the worst recessions in American history. And nobody was hiring a recent college grad with no life experience while the market's continuing to crash.
Yeah.
So kind of had to shift gears, and IT had always been a passion of mine. I never really thought of it as more than just, playing with computers on the side. And, it started one thing led to another. I'm working at a relatively large place doing break fix work, and it was done remotely through LogMe and Rescue. And then some friends, they were like, "Hey man, we're starting an IT company, and we don't know how to do IT work, but we know how to sell it." And I was like, I'm not really sure. Like, startups are risky. Like, I got a good thing going here. So I told them, like, that's not for me. And I talked to a couple other people afterwards, and they were like, "Dude, you're 27. Like, you don't have a family. You don't have any reason not to do this. Like, if not now, then when?"
Yeah.
And so my hesitation was correct. They went out of business in like 3 months.
Oh, okay.
But in that time, though, I learned so much about the fundamentals of running not even just an IT company, but running a business in general. And what ended up happening was we had managed to get 500 clients
Okay.
during that short period of time. And I was running the whole IT department by myself. And so I made an agreement with the owner that I would work for him for free for the next 2 months. And
Okay.
then everybody who called the line after that 2 months, I would just change their billing from him to me.
Hmm.
And the people knew who I was or who I am. So,
Yep.
just, "Oh, hey, Andrew, how's it going? By the way, it's called Rush Tech Support now. I just got to update your billing information." And they didn't really think anything of it. And
Cool.
that was our beginnings.
Great. And so now you started off pretty much just doing residential break fix type work. Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. I really I I considered myself, I was one of the better escalation techs at my previous job. So in the pool of people that I was with, and they had probably 100 technicians. So I mean, I considered myself pretty well versed in IT, but I didn't realize the whole managed services world and servers and the actual complicated things, the
Yeah.
reason people can be making multiple six figures doing IT work. I didn't know any of that existed. So I had to change my hat, though, from being the tech guy to the business owner guy, because I
Okay.
came to discover that it is a lot of work running a company.
Mm-hmm.
And being a solopreneur, I had was just in my living room and I had a friend that was working for a competitor and I was telling him what I was doing and he's like, "Dude, you're not going to make any money doing that." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's see how good you are. I'll pay you." And I was paying him a 30% commission. He was making 15% at his other job.
Okay.
And then he was like, "You've got a list of 500 customers and only like 30 of the worst ones are the ones that are calling you, but we've got
Mm-hmm.
470 others that need to get reminded that they're paying for this service." So we started reaching out. And I mean, it was essentially, I didn't understand it at the time, but it was essentially like a merger acquisition.
Okay.
And so that was number one. And someone had reached out to me from, this is so probably 9 months into running the company,
Mm-hmm.
and someone had reached out to me from my former job and
Okay.
he was like, "Hey, I heard, you're doing this thing, it's in your living room, and you took those 500 customers and like you turned them into your own. um yeah, our company's going out of business and we got 60,000 customers. You think you
Oh.
could do that with us too?" And I was like, it was another one of those times where I was like, I don't know, like it's like this isn't really like a real company, this is just kind of. And then I was like, I guess the worst thing that happens is they just refund and I just figure it out. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we took that on and we've had several ever since, and that was a big part of our growth. And
Cool.
year one, just me, did 36,000, and then once we started taking on these big acquisitions, year two, it was 1.75 million.
Awesome.
So it was quite a jump for
Yep.
just some guy that couldn't get a job in finance.
Well, you have that background at least in finance, which helps, I'm sure, when running your own business.
Yeah, having that background, I mean, I have my own opinions on the school system, but the background in finance, it definitely helps in business to
Mhm.
understand how to read a profit and loss statement, how to read a balance sheet, what the numbers mean, how to figure out what it costs to
Yeah.
run your business. And, I think it's kind of like when you're a child and you see your parents and you just assume that your parents know everything. And then like you learn like one thing they don't know. Like you get some piece of like algebra in fifth grade or something. And you're like, my parents don't know everything. And I think people look that way with like business owners. It's like if you're an employee, you just assume your boss. Well, most people think their bosses are idiots, but you just assume that they sat down and like ran the numbers and
Yeah.
have a clue. And I came to realize that most people don't. Most people are especially in the tech world, we're techies. We
Yeah.
like fixing computers, we like breaking things, and we like fixing things. And but running numbers or speaking to other human beings isn't usually our strong suit. So
Yeah.
that's one of my fortune in the misfortune of not working in finance. I have a very strong understanding of it. So I can see,
Good.
and we have bookkeepers now and stuff. So it's,
Yeah.
but I can tell when they're doing their job correctly. And I'm not just, a lot of our customers, the B2B customers, they're just like, am I protected? And it's like, yeah, well, we've got, and it's like, no, you just answer the question. I don't need to know. I don't understand anything.
I don't need the details. Just say yes or no.
Yeah, just say yes or no.
So now, what's your mix between, I guess, residential and business? Is because it sounds like you started out maybe with those your growth phase
Yeah,
was a lot of residential. Now maybe you're getting some business in there as well.
Yeah, so our growth phase, I mean, I kind of just brushed over it, but it was 3 years of some days we were getting 100 new customers per day. I mean, it
Wow.
was it was pouring gasoline on an already gigantic fire, and everyone's just kind of running around trying to figure it out. So
Mhm.
we had we had partnerships with large companies that were subcontracting work to us, and then we would get the ability to upsell and
Okay.
work with their customers directly with a
Hmm.
very, very strong non-solicitation clause. So that brought in a whole lot of residential business. And I mean, we right now the mix is probably 90-10 residential
Okay.
to B2B.
Hmm.
And the reason is just there was so much residential coming in like the heyday, like 2016, 2017, 2018, of
Hmm.
just, here's a company with 10,000 clients, here's a company with 60,000 clients, here's a company with 40,000 clients. And it just, we kept doing a good job at these merger acquisitions, and
Okay.
they would just, people would be going out of business and just come to me
Hmm.
and just, hey, I heard you did this with other people, and I don't think my company is worth anything, but can you kind of throw me a lifeline? And so it was still a win-win. I mean, we had the foundation to take care of everything,
Yeah.
and the people who are hemorrhaging money that have lost everything at least get a paycheck for
Hmm.
essentially like an
Yeah.
Excel sheet.
Yeah.
So a lot of residential, but just the market and just people in general, with everything being cloud-based, the value of somebody's laptop these days, just a home residential laptop.
Hmm.
When we started 6 years ago, it was my life is on my laptop.
Yeah.
And now it's more about the phones, and people, the maintenance on phones isn't that complicated.
Hmm.
Most people can kind of figure it out. So we've shifted the attention more in the B2B space, because
Okay.
business owners still, your life is on those computers. Your life is that server.
Yeah.
So the value isn't so much based on, I can't play games if my computer's down, but my whole company, is gone
Yeah.
without proper IT services.
Yeah. Oh, and we don't have a backup either. Oops.
MSP 360.
So it's funny because most of the MSPs I talk to, they're like residential. No, they're like shy away from residential. But it sounds like you've had some really good success with it. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
you're doing some business as well, but it's always good to see that hey, there is a market out there for residential.
Yeah, there is a market for residential, and I'll see people on Facebook that are just 100%, I hate residential, I'm never going to do it, this is why I only deal. And I mean, they do have a valid point.
Hmm.
There is, one of our clients just the other day, we signed up and they're paying 2,000 a month, and like the lifetime value of a residential client for us is about 1,000.
Okay.
So that B2B client that's paying 2,000, I know in the MSP space that's not even like a gigantic thing
Yeah.
whatsoever, but that one client per month is worth 20 lifetimes of a residential, and
Yeah.
it's easier to keep that one person happy, who also is friends with and knows other people
Hmm.
that have the finances and the infrastructure to be paying that kind of money, getting that kind of service. So you're right, you can be successful in residential. And I mean, we're built for it. That's
Hmm.
where we started from.
Yeah.
So you can be successful in it. Although if I were starting over today, like the reality, what direction would I go? And this is 2019 versus 2014, but
Hmm.
it, the B2B space makes more sense. And I enjoy it also just as a business owner, talking with other business owners. And
Yeah.
you meet these people that just, somebody has to have a company that makes like hot sauce bottles, like that's a person. So
Everything's got to get made somehow.
yeah, so you get to meet a lot of really interesting people. So that's, there's the passion there, as well as, I mean, the financial aspect of it makes a
Yeah.
ton more sense. And if you're doing managed services, the proactive approach, I mean, there's just so much more value in that to the business owner
Hmm.
as well. So yeah, you're right. We've been very, very blessed and very fortunate with the residential contract break fix,
Hmm.
but the B2B MSP space is definitely the direction that Rush Tech has been going for the
Okay.
last couple months.
Okay. So another, you brought up kind of a real question or something in my mind in terms of B2B. We always talk about monitoring, right? You've got monitoring. You're monitoring, like you said, proactive. Now, do you do that on the residential side as well? Do you have kind of like a stack that you put out there for them so that you can keep tabs of what's going on with them, or you just wait for them to call in?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it kind of, as we were learning our own technology,
Hmm.
It was, well, how do we learn this? I mean, we put it on our own system and the 20 some computers that we have in our office. So we're practicing on ourselves, and then, we have customers that spend a ton of money with us, and they want everything. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, I mean, even though you only have two computers in your house, like, we could pretend this is a business, set up the automation, set up the monitors, see
Yeah.
how this stuff works, so that when the bigger people come along, we're just changing the number to scale it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so RMM is available to our residential clients, but we kind of reserve it for the ones that are the people that call in a lot,
Yeah.
and that's how we stay in business. But at
Hmm.
the same time, if we could prevent a lot of these issues from happening, it's more value to the customer and it's less cost on a business side. So literally everybody wins,
Yeah.
and it's another product.
Okay. Now, what about advertising? You know, is whether it's to residential or now with more of some of the business focus. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I am on team merger acquisition.
Okay.
Like, I experienced it firsthand without realizing that that's where I was.
Hmm.
Um, we've tried everything in the book, and for all the grand slams that we've had, we've spent a ton of money with people running Facebook ads that didn't work for us,
Okay.
but I see other people that are successful in it. So,
Hmm.
um, I mean, I attend networking groups, and building relationships with people it's not a giant scalable sexy way of getting business, but it's very, very effective. And I
Yeah.
mean, I enjoy going to the groups anyway. So it's not like, oh, here's a chore that I have to do my advertising,
Hmm.
but it's definitely an avenue to bring more people in. But the more and more that I see in the MSP world that, ConnectWise is gobbling up everybody left and right, or what,
Or private equity is gobbling
Bravo.
everyone up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it makes sense because, we grew from having all of those mergers,
Hmm.
and I saw what happened from, here's 500 customers that already know who you are. They
Hmm.
will do business with the different company because that it's the easiest next move.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's, even though most people don't look at it as a marketing avenue or an advertising avenue, I think for customer acquisition, it's a really, really good strategy. And for the money that we've spent on things that didn't work,
Hmm.
we've never had a merger acquisition that didn't pan out.
Okay. And that's the thing. It's all about customer acquisition, right? You can go out there and spend a lot of money on advertising to try to, lure them in to your services and what you provide. Or you can go out there and talk to another company and say, hey, let's join forces, join together, our customer base, your customer base, and let's grow that way. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different way to look at it. And like I said, it sounds like
Yeah.
it's been very successful for you. So
Yeah, I think it's discounted because it's kind of next level thinking. Most
yeah.
people think, how do I advertise? I advertise on Facebook. I advertise on Google. And this world exists that most people aren't privy to, but it is very effective, and that's why these people with all this money are gobbling up other companies. And
Hmm.
it's not that they don't have the ability to start from scratch and build a successful turnkey operation, but it's just faster, easier advertising, especially if you've got people with monthly recurring revenue.
Yeah.
So it's predictable income.
Hmm.
So it's like an investment. It's really, but it's a whole different world. And most tech people are just like, well, I just want to fix some computers, and like, it's fight this crypto wall.
Yeah, yeah. So real quick, I do want to mention you kind of have a side project because you're the host. You also host a podcast.
Correct. I host the Selfmade and Sober podcast, where I interview entrepreneurs, authors, comedians, whomever
Hmm.
that is in long-term sobriety. I myself, part of the other part I glossed over with the I couldn't get a job in finance. I also couldn't stop drinking,
Well,
and yeah. So I'm currently approaching 7 years sober, and
congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, so I got a year sober and then started Rush myself.
Hmm.
But I yeah, run the podcast, and you know, you interview people from all different walks of life and kind of see, how did they do it? What's
Hmm.
their story? And kind of provide that glimmer of hope for the person that's probably thinking, like, getting sober, that's going to suck. Like, the only good part, at least for me, the only good part of my life was when I was drinking. So to tell me that that I have to stop doing the only good part of my life,
Yeah.
and to tell me that it's going to work out, I kind of, have my guard up when I'm first hearing that. But living proof, it does work.
Yeah, and I think it's great it's a great resource, right, for people who are in recovery. Who, like you said, there is something different. There's something more, and hey, let's put this out there and learn from it. So it's all a community, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's really what it's all about, is helping the next person.
Yeah. So going back to business a little bit and thinking about technologies, one of my favorite questions is always to ask you, what technologies are you most excited about, whether it's consumer or related to business or whatever, whether it's something available today or in the near future, the new Cybertruck from Tesla, whatever it
Oh
is.
man, where to even start? Honestly, even though this isn't like the cool techie answer, I love RMM and automated integration
Hmm.
and clicking a button, workflows, everything in one spot.
Yep.
Like, I know that's not the sexy answer because it's been around for like 6 years,
There's
but
no wrong answer. No.
oh, well, if there's not a wrong answer,
No,
then I
there's not.
love RMMs and integration in a PSA. But because in break fix world, I mean, we have our technicians were on log me and rescue,
Hmm.
and a customer calls in with an issue, we connect to them through log me and rescue and put them in the queue, and we get to it when we get to it. And just the world of managed services and fixing problems before they happen, like, it's crazy. Because we just what we knew
Uh-huh.
was remote break fix with a contract, and we just kind of called it managed services. But
Yeah.
I think the value in it, and the moving trend towards virtualization, I think, is really cool. If they can just get the price to not be uh, as high, if you could get something. And I mean, it's just a matter of when, not
Yeah.
really if. But I think virtualization is really cool too. Like, trying to explain it to non-techie people is it's
Well,
always
yeah,
interesting to see them squirm.
yeah. I spent a lot of years on the virtualization side, and people ask me, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I work with computers. That's all you need to know."
I described the movie Inception, and then, like, how they've got
Yeah.
dreams inside of dreams. So it's kind of like a computer inside of a computer. And you're like, well, I liked that movie, but this doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I think you're right, Doug. Just, I work with
I
computers.
work with computers.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't, if your definition of working with computers, I know how to turn it on and off, then you're not going to understand what it is that I do.
Yeah. No chance.
So that's kind of the technology you're excited about. What technology worries you? What kind of makes you a little bit scared out there?
You know, my gut instinct was to say AI, but I don't think that it's going to be the Skynet
Yeah.
that everybody is afraid that it's going to be. What I do think it's going to be, if you look, in human history in the past, when we didn't understand something, we would call it a god, and then we would pray to it. So
Hmm.
we need water because we don't understand how rain works. And I mean, I don't understand it. Somebody does. There's an answer somewhere in Google, but it's like,
Yeah.
you pray to the rain god, and then, okay, rain happens, and we just try to make these correlations we don't understand. Eventually, science figures it out, and
Hmm.
now that's a silly thing that we used to look at. And I think it's going to kind of eventually, AI will just get beyond what we understand, and it'll kind of turn into the same thing of, like,
Okay.
praying to this AI god because it just decided to blow up this building for no reason. but not in like a Skynet Terminator way, but like, oh, this building had some structural defect in it,
Mhm.
and it's going to build it back up bigger and better, but we don't understand because it's smarter. So I could see it going going crazy out of control, but I don't think that we are going to invent a species that views humans as a threat and then kills all humans. And if that is how we go out, I'd say that's
Well, hopefully, there's enough science fiction out there that talks about this very subject. I mean, even Isaac Asimov. He saw I, Robot. Years and years. How many years ago was that? Where he created the rules and harm no human, all these types of things. So hopefully, there's enough body of work out there that to warn us what not to do. That people who are creating these things understand what the implications are. That's my hope.
yeah. Yeah, I think there's too much fear around it for people to not put the walls up that yeah, the
Yeah.
hurt no human. I think that I feel like it's going to be difficult for us to invent something that doesn't have that failsafe
Yeah.
after, after all the movies of the doomsday
Hmm.
prophecies because of AI, but
Yeah.
it could happen. But there's so many different species on Earth, and like we
Yep.
coexist for the most part. Like maybe an AI will like cut somebody off and like piss them off and like shoot them in the face, and it's like it's just like a lion, if you go into its cave when it's mad, like it's not really like the lion's fault. Like
Yeah.
you crossed it. So
Yeah.
maybe
Well,
maybe that's how we'll coexist with them.
so it's an interesting future. Okay, we are to the rapid fire round. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay, so this is meant to be easy. It's only 6 quick questions. So first up, iOS or Android?
Android.
Okay. Mac, Linux, or Windows?
Windows.
Amazon, Azure, Google, something else for cloud.
Something else.
Okay. Local backups, cloud, or both?
3 to 1. So both.
Okay. Should you always virtualize?
If it makes sense, yeah, I guess it's like the answer to everything.
Yeah.
Should you do something? You should do something if it makes sense to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the money's there for sure.
Okay. And then finally, which is worse, printer support or vendor cold calls?
Printer support 1,000%.
Especially trying to do it remotely, I'm sure.
Yeah, that puts a real. It's bad when like a full office OS reinstall is faster than explaining to somebody how to connect their printer to the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. My support contract. I support my mom, and that's it remotely. And every time she calls, it's almost always a printer issue. And almost always, I'd say, "Did you reboot?" She says, "No." I say, "Reboot." She reboots. It works. So I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're gonna change our call waiting instead of it just saying "Thank you for calling Rush Tech Support" and a technician will be with you shortly, and then the next available person rings. I think it's gonna say there's a 5-minute delay. However, while you're waiting,
Did you reboot?
turn off your computer, wait 5 seconds, and turn it back on. We're gonna make you wait 5 minutes. There's plenty of people to answer the phone, but
Yeah.
we're just gonna make you wait and do this because maybe that's the key to everything. Although then most customers would be like, I guess all I have to do is just turn it off and turn it on, and that'll fix
Yeah. They're like, I don't need Rush
our
Tech
problem.
support anymore.
Yeah, I don't need Rush Tech
Reboot.
anymore.
Reboot's the
Yeah,
answer to everything.
I mean, is it not?
Andrew, before we go, any other words of advice for our listeners out there, or anything you want to let them know?
I think it's important for especially like the techie people to realize that if you're running a business, that even though you can have the passion towards the IT and the tech side, you know, you own a business,
Hmm.
and so many people will focus on the micros of what different product do I need in my stack in order to optimize all these things. And it's like you're missing the bigger picture of when you own a business, that owning a business and owning a system is really what you're doing. And I there's so many people, they go into business for themselves to work twice as many hours to
Hmm.
make half as much money
Yeah.
just so it's not working for somebody else. And you really, you could also create a turnkey operation. And I mean, my employees are absolutely incredible,
Hmm.
but you could give yourself the time and space to be able to play with the things that you want to play with while the company is still running. And believe it or not, you may not be the best technician of all time, and you may be able to hire someone who may be able to do the work that
Yep.
you can do, maybe even almost as good.
Yep.
I dare say people do it better but I mean, they do. Like everybody who works for me, I'm like, how do you do this?
Always good advice. Seek help, and ask other people. We talk about tech, but also a lot of the MSPs. If you come from the tech side, if you don't understand the business side, the marketing side, the sales side, those are all different areas where there are people out there who know a lot more than you do. Use them.
Yeah.
Find them.
Yeah, I mean, there's that that lie we tell ourselves that, well, if I'm the best, then everybody's just going to find me, and that's just not how the world works. Like if you're loud and well known, that is how people will find you. And like people do business with who they know.
Yeah.
That's why networking works,
Hmm.
because people do business with who they know. It's not a matter of Rush Tech Support has so many positive reviews and it's like, oh, well, you guys are down the street and it's convenient, so I trust you because we have the same area code. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, that's the reality with a lot of, especially when people don't understand technology
Yeah.
and they look at their IT cost as a liability as opposed to an asset. Unless you can position yourself as a investment in the company and the future of the company, you know, they'll be like, wait, I could get the exact same thing in India for a quarter of the price. Yeah, I choose that. And then,
Yeah.
oh no, but I'm so much better than they are. And they're like, I don't I don't recognize that kind of value.
Yeah.
So yeah, the marketing and finance side, that's running a business. It's not
Yep.
just fixing computers without a boss to tell you when to punch in and punch out and to to do tickets in ConnectWise to keep track of your time
Yeah.
to make sure that they're getting billed accurately. Oh, ConnectWise. Uh,
Great, Andrew. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. You have a great story. I wish you much future success
yeah,
in your
Doug, thank you
endeavors.
so much for having me on the show. And just a plug to MSP 360. If you don't have one of their shirts, go to anywhere that they are positioned at. I saw them at IT Nation and I got their blue shirt and it is my favorite thing in the entire world.
Yeah. And if you're watching on YouTube, I am modeling one right now. So.
It is a beautiful shirt. I wish I had thought ahead to put it on.
Yeah,
I you know, we all make mistakes,
that's all right.
but that cotton blend though.
All right, Andrew. Thanks so much, and you have a great week.
All right, Doug, you do the same. Thank you.